Following total atomic annihilation, the rebuilding of this great nation of ours may fall to you. That's why we here at Vault Boys WV will take you on an oral tour of the beautiful state of West Virginia. There's no other place to be better prepared for the impending fallout. Now we go live to our team of experts.
Hello and welcome to Vault Boys WV, a mutated podcast crossbreeding our shared history in Appalachia, the post-apocalyptic state, and Fallout 76. I am your country road scholar, Dave Chaffins, and joining me is my favorite, son of a Mothman, Austin O'Connor. How you doing, Austin?
What's up? What's going on, man?
Nothing much. We went on our mandate this past week.
We did.
We did.
We
We saw Avengers Endgame. No spoilers. We're not going to spoil anything.
Yeah,
I don't want to.
I don't even want to talk about it just because I
don't want to even really get into like Game of Thrones either because we had a whole tangent last time, and I know right before this podcast we talked for about 25 minutes about Game of Thrones. So I've gotten that out of your system.
Was good.
It was a good talk.
It was good.
It was a good talk. Boba Fett kills Commander Shepard.
I yelped like 5 times during the episode. Like audibly in my living room alone, yelped.
What restaurants were you reviewing?
I howled. I hollered. I screamed.
You wolfed.
Yeah. I whooped.
Whooped.
Yeah.
Well, we had a nice little mandate.
It was nice.
The only problem
until you like sprained your ankle.
Yeah, I got up. So we sat on the front row of the movie theater it's not
front
really
row
the front
of, like,
row.
the second tier.
Right. It was like right at the front of the walkway. So we had like bars that we could like put our feet up on. And it was nice because we could leave as we pleased.
Yeah. Well, you had to go pee. I dehydrated myself.
You stopped drinking water
at 2 p.m.
Yes.
I made sure that I did not have to pee the whole movie.
And I think I got a soda. Did I get a soda? I think I got a soda.
And popcorn, I think.
I peed twice.
Or you got candy.
I peed twice during the movie, but the first time I got up, depth perception didn't work. And so the floor wasn't where I thought it was. And so it's like, it's during a scene. I get up, I go over the corner, and I just land on my ankle funny. And then I'm in front of the theater, like living in my own shame, and then I walk. I'm slowly limping.
Listen, all I saw was like out of the corner of my eye, your silhouette just dropped really quickly, and I look and I just see your shadow just hobbling slowly. Yes. But like and I could see your face for a split second, and you were like, "Oh man, okay, just keep going."
Well, I knew I had to get out of the vision of these people.
You were like booking it, but in the most painful way possible.
Because these people were here to enjoy this movie, and we had the person from the theater, which I've never seen. I've been to that theater.
That was weird.
Plenty of times, and this guy comes in and gives us a speech that's essentially. Everyone, if I see you using your cell phone from in the booth, I'm going to come down here and take it away or throw you out. And make sure to respect your neighbor and don't talk about spoilers if you've seen the movie. I've seen this movie 3 times, and it's the greatest film I've ever seen.
Yeah. He was like, if I see it, I'm going to have to bring you out, and we're going to have to look at every photo in your phone and make sure you didn't take any video. Joke's on him.
Right.
All I have is 33,000 pictures of Jason Alexander in my phone, so he would have been really upset. But
is that for the memes?
Yeah, because he looks like Jon Snow. Jon Snow looks like him.
I've seen that meme.
If you like,
I'm up to date on my memes.
On your memes. But listen, I wanted to talk about something real quick that happened to me over the weekend.
Okay.
So as you know, and as everybody else knows, I've had fun encounters with spirits, with the supernatural.
Oh, okay.
In my time. So I went to one of my really good friends' weddings in Virginia, and I was the photographer for the wedding.
Right.
And we stayed in the eastern panhandle of West Virginia. So I was up around Harper's Ferry. But the wedding was near Winchester.
Right, Winchester. And if you want to know more about Harper's Ferry, you can listen to our last episode.
Yes, exactly. What was that word? Exactly.
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 You got Sean Connery down here.
I drove up on Friday, the morning after we saw Avengers, and it was me and 2 of my friends. They were both in the wedding, and we had no idea where we were going. And I've never been to Winchester, Virginia.
Small.
I've been near it because whenever I go to DC, I cut off 81
cut up.
just before Winchester. But
Right, and you take that like passageway that there's not any traffic on, and you avoid all of that Richmond situation.
So
I-95.
we text the bride and say, "Hey Taylor, what's the address? We don't know where we're going." So she sends the address. First, we took the wrong road because it told us to go left, and we were like, "This is definitely not it." So then we come down, and we're like, "Well, this is the only other thing that makes sense." But it was this big, huge mansion, and it was gated. Like there was a gate out front, and you go up, and there is like a covered little dome with the pillars around it. I don't know what you would call it, like
A gazebo?
It's kind of like a gazebo, but like it was very open. I don't know if but it was like a very solid structure, not like a screened in anything.
Pergola?
Sort of. I don't know. It's the Greenbrier has one with like the little spring and like the.
Oh, a gazebo.
Is it a gazebo? Is that
Yeah,
the
it's a
technical
gazebo.
term? Okay, we'll say a gazebo.
Yeah.
And there was just like this creepy statue under it and all this stuff. And it's called Historic Jordan Springs.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm sure someone's heard of it. And it's this big L-shaped, like 3 or 4 story mansion. Beautiful land, beautiful house, very, very historic looking. I mean, it's called Historic Jordan Springs. So we roll up and we go inside, and just immediately all of us get this weird feeling. Just like we all felt it. There were about 4 of us total that had arrived at the same time. And we're like, man, this is kind of weird. It's just a heavy feeling. And they're like, okay, so the man cave where all the groomsmen will be getting ready, and you can all put your stuff down there for now while we do the rehearsal as well. It's downstairs in the basement. So we walk down into the basement, and it just keeps getting worse. The inside of the house was beautiful. It was really beautiful, and the man cave was really. It had like a nice big pool table and like autographed guitars on the wall and a bar and like little statues and stuff. Yeah, very nice. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna check out. I'm going to keep going down this hallway. And you're like in a dungeon, basically. But the indoor chapel was in the basement because on the side of the house was sort of built into a hill. So even though you're in the basement, once you get to the chapel, there's a door that goes outside. So it's not totally, it makes sense. Like it's not bad. But we did the rehearsal and everything. I just took the longest way to get to this, though. But I went to the event coordinator after the rehearsal, and I was like, "Hey, man, is this place haunted at all?" I was like, I know you work here and you're here every day. Do you ever experience things? And his name is Colt. Colt. And he goes, "Well, a lot of us here, we're kind of skeptical of it. We're skeptics. Most of the things that we hear can be pretty easily debunked. An old house, creaks, different, heating and cooling systems and stuff, and a lot of it." A lot of things echo through the house, so we'll hear voices, but it's someone, maybe on the other side of the house and the vent system. And he had all these explanations. He was like, but truthfully, I've never really had that much happen here that has scared me. I asked him when the house was built. The house dates back to the 1600s. So I was like, okay, your story's not matching up now, Colt, because I know this place has got to be haunted with that much time.
1600s.
So, and then before that, it was a Native American, they had like a little village there because it was the springs. And it was like the sulfur springs, and they thought there were healing powers and all this stuff. And then the white man came and did what they did, like always, and we're like, hey, this is ours now.
I don't buy Colt's story. I think Colt's trying to sell us a product.
Well, listen, this is where it gets good. So we go to the rehearsal dinner, and we're all kind of talking about it.
Right.
So I look up online, Historic Jordan Springs. The first result I saw was Discovery Channel, When Ghosts Attack. Historic Jordan Springs, Virginia. And I was like, this man, Colt.
Colt's
all right, Colt. All right. So I click on another video of like of a paranormal investigation.
Right.
And who do I see front and center in the video giving an interview? None other than Colt. And here's Colt talking about all the stuff that's happened to him in this house and how everybody's had an experience. And I'm like, all right, Colt, I'm on to you now because you sat there and you told me and you said that this wasn't a haunted place. And I get on Al Gore's internet and I see you front and center telling me that this place is haunted. So there's conflicting stories here. So I get there the next day and I got there a little early because I was a photographer and I was going to get set up.
You want to get everything ready.
So I'm thinking, you know, I bet everybody's down in the chapel and they're getting everything ready. So I walk downstairs into the basement, check the man cave. Nope. Lights are turned off. Nobody's there. Getting a little nervous. I'm in the basement by myself at this point. I go down this hallway, take a right. You go down, and I'll show you the picture real quick of what it looks like. I go down this hallway. I look down the other hallway to the chapel. Doors are closed. Lights are off. All of a sudden, the light goes off where I am. So I'm in this basement, terrified.
It's dark.
It's dark. Oh, no cell phone service at all.
In the basement or just
in general
area?
in the whole area. The house itself.
Yeah.
You get outside the house, full bars in like one spot. And then like you take 3 steps, no service. So this is what I see. And then the lights go out. That's in the basement of the house.
Okay.
Very old, as you can see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like something you would find in what's that game? Amnesia Dark Descent.
Yeah.
That's what I would
There was
describe.
also a rope right here, roping this section off, and the chapel was over this way, and then all the lights just turned off. So I have like 30 pounds of camera equipment on me, sprinting through the house, back up the steps outside. So it was pretty terrifying. I won't lie to you. It was actually very, very terrifying experience. But it's funny. Some of the wedding pictures, there are orbs all over the place in these pictures.
You got them orbs, man.
So I don't know. I'm still going through the photos, but there
maybe they could sell that venue differently. Have you ever thought about that?
Well, that's what's funny is there's like a secret website for them that's still official by them, but it's like a secret called Haunted Historic Jordan Springs. There's historicjordansprings.com, but then there's one that's like Haunted Historic Jordan Springs.
Right, and it's branded
they've talked about the paranormal investigations.
Yeah, if you want like because like people like having like the theme weddings and like a paranormal wedding.
And it was,
something.
it was a beautiful place for a wedding. It was gorgeous.
If any of our listeners are in the Northern Virginia area,
check it out. They do tours.
One of our pieces of mail is from a guy from Northern Virginia.
I'm sure he's probably heard of it.
He's probably have it.
But they do tours. It's like I said, I recommend checking it out, especially if you're into creepy things, because it's beautiful. There's a lot of history there. A lot of presidents have stayed there. A lot of different generals had stayed there during the Civil War and all this other stuff.
Right.
It was a hospital, I think, at one point. It was a hotel at one point.
Yeah, and Colt's over here going,
oh no, nothing's ever happened.
Oh
here.
no, that's not. We can explain everything.
It was the same feeling I had when I told you the story about my dad's house that one time. It was that, but worse. Of just feeling like something's around you. And
yeah, I felt that way there's a church out in Withville, Virginia that's like called like the Church on the Hill or the Cave on the Hill or something.
I think I've heard of that.
But it's like this old church, and it functioned as a Civil War hospital. And you can open up a closet, and there's still blood stains from the Civil War in
if
the
it's
closet.
Civil War hospital, if anything is said to have previously been anything actually just in general related to the Civil War,
right?
I 100% will guarantee it's haunted.
Yes,
no doubt.
Yeah,
there's no way not to be.
And it's like up on this. It's like it's up on this hill. It's in this alcove. It's nasty business.
Yeah.
Well, this weekend I went and followed your recommendation and went to the Huntington Art Museum.
You did.
I did.
Did you enjoy it?
I found it very delightful. It's like it's hidden away up there.
Yeah, I told you you'll feel like you're just going to nowhere.
You have to drive through roads that I'm very familiar with, but for Huntington, that's pretty settled.
You're going like way up.
You're way up there, but it's in a square with a little like open area in it, and I saw a lot of great art. It was really nice. They had like high school exhibit, a middle school exhibit that was on display. Obviously, like more famous stuff. They had this really interesting, like woven artwork that was there, and I guess it was an art display, but it was historic guns. So black powder rifles. There you go. And a hand cannon, which I thought was interesting, which is literally knights would take this thing that looked like it looked like a small cannon that had been strapped to this piece of wood that the trigger was on top. So it was like more like a stick with the cannon piece, and they would fill it with like gunpowder, I guess, which is what you would, I guess. I don't know much about how cannons work.
Yeah.
Mail in, tell me what's wrong.
There's got to be
there's got to be
cannon
something
expert out there somewhere.
Somewhere. But knights would get on the back of the horse, and they would have it, and they would just have one shot during battle, and they would fire their hand cannon. And I was like, that's what we need in Fallout 76. Is the
That's like how you would get like one grenade on Modern Warfare online. That's like they would just get their one.
They get their one shot at the beginning of the battle. So I went there. I tried to go to the bowling alley over there, and bowling alley not open.
Colonial Lanes?
Not open.
Is that where it was? Colonial?
It was something out near that, and this is a hot take, out near that terrible donut shop called the Jolly.
Dude, if you don't even talk trash about Jolly Pirate, 'cause Jolly Pirate is amazing.
I know it's a hot take.
Oh, so you tried to go to Strike Zone?
Strike Zone, yeah.
That place is the other bowling alley. That's on Route 60.
Yeah, we tried to go there. It was close. Jolly Pirate or whatever is. Why would you serve? Now, hear me out. Listeners will agree. Would you trust a donut shop that serves donuts in euros?
You want to know why they sell euros?
Why do they sell euros?
Because they're owned by a Greek family.
Well, that's fine.
Like authentic Greek. That
I'm going to go start a taco shop, and I'm going to serve fish and chips too. Like, are you going to trust both of those?
Here's the thing, though. That's the only Jolly Pirate that does it. The Jolly Pirate in Ashland, Kentucky, does not sell euros. They just sell donuts and coffee.
I would trust that Jolly Pirate more.
But both are owned by the same family.
Well, I've had donuts from the Jolly Pirate, and I thought, that's fine. I could get better. Listen, hot take, get better ones at Krispy Kreme.
Oh, you shut your mouth.
Yeah, I can get better ones at Krispy Kreme.
Oh, that's... you're reaching like blasphemy levels right now.
Have you ever eaten Carol Lee? You've been to Blacksburg a few times.
I've never have.
You need to go.
I bet it's trash. Yeah, you see how it feels when somebody bashes things you love?
Well, you haven't tried it, so you don't know. I, however, have tried it because I'm a worldly man, a man of many travels. Yeah. But I did eat at a fantastic restaurant, to get on a more positive note, called Bahnhof.
Bahnhof.
Which I had never been to, it was described to me as a German restaurant, and I was like, okay. It's German fusion food, though. And I had this thing called it's like you get sausages, you can get schnitzel, you can get all kinds of different German flavors, but they're all mixed with other types of food. So I had a currywurst, which was a sausage made out to taste like Indian-based curry that had like pistachios on top with dates, and it was delicious.
I think last time I was there, I had a gyro, but it was with sausage, and it was pretty good.
And then Selena got it was a schnitzel, but it was like a specifically Appalachian schnitzel. It was tasty, and
tasty.
Yeah, it was real tasty. So if you're like, that restaurant is one of the few places that is right now my favorite restaurant. I've eaten it there twice.
I've been there one time. It's so funny because I spend a lot of time in Huntington, but I just never go there. It's a little pricey, but it's really good.
Well, when you're a bougie mofo like me.
Yeah. I say it's pricey, and I'm sitting here drinking a LaCroix.
You brought 2 LaCroix to my house to dog down.
LaCroix.
We live down here in the city very comfortably.
Got my passion fruit LaCroix.
Right.
Peasant.
It's my favorite restaurant though right now. Just wanted to give them a quick shout out for interesting food in Appalachia. So if you go to Camden Park, don't eat the food at Camden Park. And why did you go there in the first place if you didn't have any kids? Probably just take a picture and be like, I was there. Because once you get there, it's like I don't know. I can't talk hard. I can't talk hard in Camden Park.
Yeah,
can't talk hard. Yeah. But with that, we've got a new Inside the Vault, and we'll get into Fallout 76 for those people. We had West Virginia food, we had borderline West Virginia ghost stories, and now we're going to have some West Virginia video game. How do you feel about that? Sounds good. So I'm just going to read it.
I forgot they can't see me do my
No, they can't see you do your dance moves.
My whoa.
You should see. I saw him once break dance while talking to me, and I was amazed at the sheer talent that this young sir has. I've truly amazed.
Sometimes you just got to do what you got to do.
You got to perform. So I'm just going to read this off because I actually thought that the narrative was interesting rather than trying to summarize it. I'm not going to read the full thing, but I'm going to read the stuff about Ever Upwards.
Let's do it.
So this is in regards to the new patch, or I guess part of Wild Appalachia season, in a quest called Ever Upwards, or a series of quests. So the intrepid pioneer scouts have a long history of inspiring the children of Appalachia to strive ever upwards.
Ever upwards.
Put a trademark on that. On missions of self-improvement and the betterment of their communities. However, a lack of interested children in the wake of the Great War has caused active scout numbers to dwindle. So the pioneer scouts are taking their philosophy of inclusivity to a whole new level by accepting recruits of all ages. As a novice tadpole, you will need to prove you've embraced the pioneer scout lifestyle by completing activities that demonstrate their core values: kindness, helpfulness, bravery, and growth. You can also earn badges that show your mastery over traditional activities like swimming, archery, cooking, athletics, and more. In addition to measuring individual growth, badges will come in handy at the Pioneer Scout vending machines. Trade your badges in for themed loot that you can use to enhance your camp and show off your pioneering spirit. Once you've been promoted to the rank of Mighty Possum, which I enjoy highly, you will be able to pursue tougher badges that will reward you with your first backpack. Listening, and this is about an event that happens, and I'll talk more about that. But listening to spooky stories around the glow of a campfire is a time-honored pioneer scout tradition. Mm-hmm. Head to Camp Adams after nightfall to hear about the terrors of the dark. Listen closely, but be sure to look over your shoulder for any real creepy creatures that may be lurking in the shadows. Don't worry too much. This story was originally told to more age-appropriate tadpoles and possums, so it won't be too scary for our most veteran of the wasteland. About to get Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts up in here.
Yeah, well, that fits very well with the theme of what's going on in West Virginia this year.
That's true.
We do have,
this year,
didn't know, the World Boy Scout Jamboree.
Well, it's not just this year; it's every year. We have the World.
No, we don't. Just this year. We have Scout Jamboree, which is like a national thing, but the World Jamboree is here this year. So we have people from all over the world coming.
Oh, you're right. And because
it's big. It's a big deal every other year, but this year it's like a big deal.
Some insight at work have been preparing.
Do you guys have to deal with this too?
I can't talk about what we have to do, but we have to do things.
You guys are associated
for this. Yeah. We are associated.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's cool, though. It's going to be cool. I think there's going to be roughly 50,000 people there.
Yes.
Which will make it, like, at that point, like, the biggest city in West Virginia for, like, a solid, 2 or 3 weeks, I think it takes place. But it'll be cool. So it's kind of neat that they're doing the Boy Scout thing, and we've got this big Boy Scout event. And
it's a big deal.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It's an incredible challenge to have the infrastructure ready to go for that amount of people in this kind of remote area. Even though it's used every year for the national, every year the national jamboree happens at that location. It's been that way for years and years and years. But the having the world one there has happened before. It's gone on there before. I think it was a little, maybe like 8 or 9 years ago that it happened. It was a big deal. It's happening there again this year. But the Pioneer Scouts are boys and girls. If you look at the posters in the game, it shows boys and girls. So it seems like inclusivity is a big thing with them. Another thing that I thought was funny that people were reacting to was their values and how you are going to demonstrate kindness, helpfulness, bravery, and growth in Fallout 76. Because generally, whenever they have like those, whenever you have some sort of ideal that you're trying to represent, it's generally a pretty warped definition of what that is. So I'm curious how that we're gonna do some kindness, helpfulness, bravery, and growth. I'm excited for badges. I'm curious how this will work other than vending machines, because I would want to like put them on my backpack.
Yeah.
Which is one of the things that they're adding with this. They're giving us backpacks. You can read more about that.
Backpack.
Which is something that is pretty cool. Makes sense for this game. One of the things you can add in like technology, quote unquote. It's not like you're some sort of like cyber hacker and you're gonna hack a doodle do into your backpack.
Hack a doodle do.
I think it's mostly extra storage, extra armor, or a refrigerator. You can like a small refrigerator you can put there so the items can keep longer. There you have it.
Look at that.
I'm curious what the camp items are. I'm curious how you're gonna display your badges, because like I want to walk around with my badges. That was the whole thing.
Like, yo, y'all didn't get
did
this
you do
pin?
Boy Scouts?
Briefly.
I was.
For me. It wasn't my scene, man.
See, I didn't. I was never an Eagle Scout. I went from. I think you start as a tiger, then you go to a wolf, then you go to. There's a third one, and then you hit up Weeblo. And I made it all the way to Weeblo.
Nerd. I'm just kidding.
Well,
I'm just kidding. That's just a joke. These are just some jokey jokes, man.
Well, at least I didn't work behind the counter at Food City. So
I didn't work behind the counter at Food City. So who's the joke on now? Now you talk about old Nick Thompson.
Oh, that's true, because you were busy stocking the shelves.
I didn't do that either. You're 0 for 2, dog.
What did you do?
I had the prestigious opportunity of being a bag boy in high school. So
sorry.
I don't want to hear.
Oh, and you had to go get those carts in the winter.
They're buggies.
Oh, excuse me.
Embrace debate.
I do embrace that debate. So I'm excited for what this is. Oh, and the event. So there was a data mine, kind of a little bit of this event, and it seems like that there's this narrative that they've put up, but it seems like that this event is going to be special in a way that it's not just like, hey, go kill this thing.
Yeah,
it's going to be a little more abstract. It seems like. It seems like that there's a little bit like from the data mine, it led us to believe that there's a little bit of like a choose your own adventure kind of thing of like, how do you want the story to go? Will the monster come? Will it like some of those elements within it? So I'm excited about that. There's a lot of stuff to be excited for, especially I think it's in May. They've got the backpacks, they've got the Pioneer Scouts coming, they've got your legendary vendor, so all your legendary items are getting changed over. They've got the new dungeon, Arctos Pharmacy. That's going to be a good time. I've got a picture of all the backpacks here.
Show the viewers real quick.
Yeah, let me show them real quick. Look at this. You see all this? Wow. You're driving your cars. You're thinking about the backpacks in your head. If you haven't looked at it, go look at the latest inside the vault. And check these out. A lot of people are talking about some of the different faction-themed ones, the more wasteland-themed ones, and then the baby Mothman is a favorite. But I like the sloth one, where you have like it's like a little baby stuffed sloth attached to your back. It's like at Disney World, where you have all the kids walking around that have the dinosaur backpacks that have the leash attached to them, and that's what I want it to be is akin to one of those, where it's like a little baby sloth walking around with me. Let's see, what else do I have? So this week was actually probably the conclusion for Sheep Squatch in the game. Finally, the Sheep Squatch revealed himself unto the masses through an event called Free Range, in which you got a shepherd's crook, and you had to herd cows from one portion of the map to the other while defending it from different monsters, ending in a sheep squatch, as well as random encounters with the sheep squatch.
The sheep squatch.
I've played both of those, of course.
Yes.
And there's some crafting items that you get, like you can craft your shepherd's crook with like barbed wire or different stuff. You can get a sheep squatch club that has a sheep squatch like skull on it, or you can make these like throwing knives, tomahawk things that are from quills of the sheep squatch. But as far as introducing a cryptid, like taking it from the beginning of April to now, and all the quests and all the things that they've done every week, it's really been a fantastic job. Where they have started with this main quest of lying low, of going through and understanding that, and getting the I guess the meat of that, understanding that storyline, and then leading it up to say, well, the sheep squatch is out there, and putting it in the game as at some locations you can hear something in the woods, like you can hear the sheep squatch go off, and whenever the free range is on the map, they don't give you a notification in the game. You can hear it. If you're not listening to radio or anything, you can hear the sheep squatch call, and that lets you know that the event is happening. And it's not that loud. It's like you have to be out in the forest. You have to be like somewhere quiet. You can hear like. So I think that's really cool. I want them to continue with this. Mm-hmm. This is cool. This is what I wanted them to do. Mm-hmm. Is continually like add in this content. People love cryptids. We love cryptids so much that's now 30% of our show. We really talk about cryptids. Mm-hmm. Today it's going to be 60%. Spoiler alert. But if you read the title of this, you probably already know. I'm excited.
Speaking of cryptids, real quick, did you see today that some people on, I think in the Himalayas maybe, found some very suspicious footprints that look like what they believe to be a Yeti?
I did not.
It was in like the news.
You're sharing this outside of the Cryptid Club corner. I'll have you know. You have gone beyond.
We're talking cryptids the whole episode. It's okay. This is the one episode.
This is the one episode where it's fine.
We've already started.
So they saw the prints.
Apparently, like whatever army is stationed where they found them was out just doing a run, I think, and found these footprints that they said were not of any animal that they know that is native to that area, like giant, like man animal like footprints.
So. Was it the sheep squatch? Was it the Sasquatch? What level of squatch was it?
There's a squatch in them woods. It would be the snow. So in them hills, the mountains.
Right.
Yeah.
It's used to mountains.
Yeah. So I don't know. It was on the news today, though. I definitely saw it on.
I think it would be a cool environment to have in fall. It's like a snowy environment.
I wish they would do seasonal. Like in the winter, you get some snow in the forest.
Well, I wish like half of the Savage Divide was snow.
Yeah, kind of like Red Dead, how you go up north. And
right.
It gets,
that would be cool. I would be down for that.
I'm with it.
Maybe in the nuclear winter.
I see the vision.
Season that they have.
I see the vision for sure.
We'll have a winter. Winter
is here.
But on the last note, the patch 9, which includes ever upwards, which includes backpacks, which includes whatever they feel like putting in. Hopefully, player vending. That'll come, I think, in this update. That's what they have it scheduled for. I don't know. They like to change their mind about when they're doing that. Will be coming all on May the 7th.
May the 7th. So close.
It's 1st May. It was 102 degrees when I rang it in my car today.
But that's just you were in the sun. It was probably in the 80s, though.
It said it was in the 90s. I looked at the weather. It was in the 90s at the airport.
Sheesh.
Yeah. Yeager Airport. As we call it in the game, Wade Airport.
I hate summer.
Yeager.
Not ready for summer. I hate summer so much.
Summer here's terrible.
I need the mountains back.
We do. Let's just go move up. Let's make camps. We'll go up there, live in cabins. Yeah. You don't seem that enthused about it.
I'm actually very enthused about that. Just dreaming about how wonderful that would be.
All right. Well, with that, we'll move on into our next segment.
Welcome back, dear listeners. It's time once again to put aside all you think you know, all you believe to be true. Time to open your mind to the strange, bizarre, and sometimes terrifying world that exists in the shadows and fringes of our own, where myth, legend, and rumor are made real. Yes, it's time for more thrilling Tales from the West Virginia Hills.
What are you pumped for?
Oh, I'm pumped about this.
What are you pumped for?
Just this whole section.
This whole section. Well, this can be the The time when we talk about this. I like that intro.
Let's do it.
Okay. It's already going.
Oh,
we're already here.
We're going. We're rolling.
We're here.
Oh, wow.
We're here.
A hot mic.
We're talking about it. What are we talking about?
We are talking about Wendigos.
Wendigos.
Our old pals.
Our
Wendigos.
Our friends from the hills that are
Hills
not
and
pronounced
hollers.
Wendingos.
Wendigo ate yo, baby.
A Wendigo.
A Wendigo.
A Wendigo. Which I had somebody write in, I think it tweeted at us way back. Way back. Let's do a rewind. And
That was the rewind.
I'm very aware what the rewind was, okay? I'm up to date with the time travel.
Okay.
There's so much time travel going on. I don't know what's happening.
Are we bringing it back up now?
I'm not bringing it back up.
That was us coming back to
Okay.
back to present day.
Okay, we're back to present day. We're talking about Wendigos. Now, if you don't know what a Wendigo is, they are in Fallout 76. Imagine that. This is the final cryptid we've yet to talk about that's in the game. We've done episodes on Flatwoods Monster, Grafton Monster, Mothman, Snallygaster. I'm trying to think of the other cryptids that are
We've
in the
done
game.
quite a few, but the Wendigo has eluded us.
The Wendigo has long eluded us.
Yes.
It's
But here we
interesting
are.
that we talk about the Wendigo on really the first true day of summer,
Yes.
where it was so hot.
We're here.
We're here. We're
ready.
out here.
We're talking about it. It's happening.
So, as the tale goes, the Wendigo was a lost hunter. During a brutally cold winter, his intense hunger drove him to cannibalism. After feasting on human flesh, he became a crazed monster, roaming the forest in search of more people to eat.
It's not a good look.
It's not a good look. So that's the simplified,
Yes.
I suppose, version of...
I feel like it's just it's when you think about it, the Wendigo really is like the creepiest to me. Like it's very disturbing.
I think it serves a cultural purpose.
Yeah.
As well.
I mean, it's very rooted in like old folklore from.
Well,
like,
it goes
Native
back to
Americans.
Algonquin lore
Right.
of, and the Algonquins were primarily in Canada in that area.
Right.
They were. Oh my gosh!
Bless
Oh
you.
my gosh!
Leave that in.
Oh, I will.
Full transparency
Full
on this
transparency.
podcast.
We do a lot of editing here.
We're not perfect.
We do a lot of editing. This is highly edited. The Algonquins, I don't know what I'm talking about. We, like I'm an Algonquin,
Yes.
are primarily in Canada. And they essentially created this, and I can't get into the head of what the Algonquins were thinking, but with most myths and stories and stuff, they're to, I guess, generate a law or have some sort of moral lesson to teach. The Wendigo is primarily a story told in Algonquin tribes about this spirit that possesses you to eat human flesh, and once you start eating human flesh, you can't stop.
Once you pop, the fun don't stop.
Right. And it only happens when you're cold and greedy. So essentially it was saying, hey, when you go out to hunt and it gets really cold in the winter, you can't eat other people.
Yeah.
Don't do that, or else you're turned into a Wendigo.
Well, that's one way to keep people from doing it.
Right. You don't want to be a Wendigo. Nobody wants to be a Wendigo. It's like being the loser. But I don't know. Because then, Wendigos back then were described as like super duper lanky and larger than a normal human.
Yeah.
And very gray, pale skin with funny teeth and antlers,
Yeah.
which are not present in Fallout 76's
Right.
version of the Wendigo.
There's a few different versions, but yeah, so it was basically a way to deter people from being cannibals, essentially.
Right.
It's kind of like how my mom used to tell me, if you keep doing that with your face, it's going to get stuck that way. Yeah, it's just the Algonquin version of that.
Right.
It's a little more brutal.
If you don't eat your vegetables, how are you going to
Yeah.
grow hair in your chest?
If you sit too close to the TV, your vision is going to be bad.
Right. There's other ones, but I won't.
No, I think we're thinking of the same one. Yeah. So we'll skip that one. But yeah, so there's a lot of. I'm actually glad you said that because I was about to say it. But no, there's a lot of those. But yeah, so it's sort of just like this cautionary tale that would keep children up at night.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good method when you think about it, because, I mean, even now, I'm a little scared.
Yeah, there's two different theories of thought with Wendigos of where they draw their power, because they're very fast. Every incarnation of Wendigos are very fast.
Right.
They have a lot of strength as well.
Yeah. But
And-
that's my question: is where is that strength coming from? Because their arms are like the size of my pinky.
Right, and that's the theory of where they draw their power. So ancient lore would say, this Algonquin lore would say that it would be a demon that would possess them to eat the flesh when they are feeling greedy.
I don't mess with demons, man.
Greedy and cold. And so then the spirit of the Wendigo would be inside you. You would become a Wendigo at that point. The other theory is that when you ingest a lot of human flesh,
Yes.
that you gain supernatural power.
Okay.
And then become, like, because you have ingested in the forbidden meat.
Yes.
You gain these powers to become a Wendigo. So it's not by a spirit; it's by the supernatural nutritional value of human flesh.
Well,
A little
wonder
dark.
how many calories we're talking.
Yeah, I wonder what the caloric
What's
intake.
Sodium. I need to know like the nutritional
Right, the
value
nutritional values. Is this organic?
Yeah.
Grass fed?
here. Yeah. You know,
What is the?
there's they you know, we got to hear both sides of the story.
We
here,
do.
so.
So
I'm not condoning cannibalism. Let me just say that.
no, and we've talked about cannibalism on this podcast before,
casually. Like, we've done this before.
In fact, we've done it all with drugs and alcohol involved as well.
yes.
And that's all been wrapped up into into my character in Fallout 76. But I think the origins of the Wendigo are interesting. But I think what's more interesting is its pervasiveness in pop culture, which was something that I was particularly interested in. Reading and seeing, you had stories of hunters from the 1800s that were out and doing stuff and hunting and went to a cold lodge, and then the Wendigo was there. Like, oh, surprise, surprise. But I think modern incarnations of it are interesting.
Yeah.
So, for example, Stephen King has had a big influence on what I guess a modern version of a Wendigo is. And he wrote particularly two books that are famous. One that I don't know much about, which is called "The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon," which was about this girl who is hunted while she's on the Appalachian Trail in Maine or Massachusetts, or Appalachian Trail is not in Massachusetts, probably in Lower Maine. Vermont, I don't know. One of those states.
She's somewhere
New
and she gets
England,
lost.
but she's on the Appalachian Trail, and a Wendigo is hunting her, which is the inspiration. If you look for the artwork that is like the Tales of the West Virginia Hills artwork, where they have the Wendigo episode, it's the face of the Wendigo in Fallout 76, but in his eye you can see a boy that is almost a direct copy of the girl from the cover of that book.
Fun fact. Timely fun fact about the Appalachian Trail: the trail headquarters are in Harper's Ferry.
That's true. Some would call that the midpoint of the Appalachian Trail. So it started in that, and then in Pet Sematary, which has had two movies now. Is a very famous book. All of those happenings are from a spiritual Wendigo that possesses not only these things to come back to life, spoiler alert, animals come back to life, and spoiler alert, it makes everybody get real angry and greedy and want to, like, it influences them to behave erratically. So truck drivers that drive through there, which is, it's like a, I guess, off the beaten truck passage in both the books and the movie, speed heavily through there, and that causes some frightening things for the family of, and I do that here in the neighborhood of when I see people passing by, I'm like,
You shake your fist.
Yes, I in my head
Old
have
man yells
thought
at
about getting a
cloud.
clothesline out, and then as the motorcyclists at 2 a.m. come screeching through
those
the
are the
neighborhood.
worst.
They wake me up every time.
Yeah, I've heard them too. They go down my road like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But so I've never seen or read Pet Sematary, but from what I understand, it's basically these people are brought back to life, right? But they're not themselves anymore.
No, they're not themselves.
They're
anymore.
very like what's the word?
Malviolent.
There's a dog fight going on upstairs. Very just like aggressive and evil and just kind of just very off.
Right. They're tinged more towards the evil spectrum.
That makes me think of when I was in school. I remember we read, it was like a short story, like the monkey's paw or something like that. You ever heard
That
of
sounds
that?
familiar. Yeah.
It was basically the family, something along the lines of they were granted a wish by this monkey's paw, and their son, I believe, had died in the war, and they wished that he would come back, but they were told that he would not be the same, and that he would be, bad, and it wouldn't be their son, and all this stuff.
Right.
I think the story ends with they did wish for it, and then they just hear this like clawing on the front door, like right after it, and then it's over. That kind of makes me think of that, like bringing this person back.
The spiritualness of it has been, I guess, covered in a bunch of different realms, like the game Until Dawn. If you haven't played that, you should. It's probably one of the best, like, not necessarily point and click. It's like a choose your own adventure style game with Hayden Panettiere and the guy from Mr. Robot and the Queen movie. I forgot. Rami.
I know what you're talking about.
yeah.
The guy that plays.
He's got real big eyes. Big-eyed guy.
That guy creeps me out, man.
He's in it. So they got like this like weird star-studded cast.
Hayden Panettiere's in it?
Yeah, from Heroes in the show Nashville.
I didn't even know she was still doing it.
Yeah, she was in the video game. It's really good. It is a perfect, like, teens go to a cabin in the winter and mischief occurs and there's twists and turns. But a portion of that game is the Legend of Wendigos, and in that one, it's more of a spiritual element to it. You should go play that game. I don't want to spoil too much about that game because half that game is story.
Yeah, don't give it away.
I don't want to give it away, but that's another representation of spiritual Wendigo stuff. The thing that I think is more interesting is the belief that consuming human flesh gives you supernatural powers.
Yeah, it's like on one end, they tell you that you'll turn into this horrific creature. But then on the other end, they're like, you'll turn into this creature because eating human flesh gives you superpowers. So it's like, there's some people out there that are like way in the like, honestly, maybe like I want superpowers. Like maybe they shouldn't include that you're going to get superpowers.
Right. And
just be like, no, you'll turn into this horrific being. That's all you need to say.
So there's a line that's drawn there between skinwalkers and Wendigos. Are you familiar with skinwalkers?
Like vaguely. Like I've definitely heard of them and of that folklore, but you could probably
of these beings that infiltrate, that look like your friends, that stalk groups, that paranoid people, that change their face to look like this or that, and then plot the demise of these. Essentially, Slender Man.
Aren't they associated with like fairies in like Irish or maybe Scottish cultures? I think
so. I think you're right. I think you're right.
They thought that they weren't really the person that they were portraying, essentially, and I think a lot of people were like executed because of that, because they thought that they weren't. Yeah, there was a story I read about that, and a lot of times, if people would not act like themselves, and maybe they'd have a really bad fever and be really sick, it was as if they they were infiltrated, and it was like a demonic type thing. And I think I'm wanting to say maybe it was Irish. It's either Ireland or Scotland, one of the two. It was a really big thing way back in the day, that they thought people were basically had been possessed.
Right.
So it's kind of, yeah.
It seems like in folklore they seem to look similar and are described similarly, but the difference is at the human flesh.
Yeah.
The consumption of human flesh. So Wendigos, the horns of a Wendigo. So typically it's portrayed and has been portrayed in folklore as having a skullish face with akin to deer antlers on their head. And so one thing I didn't realize, one of my favorite shows on NBC, there will never be another show like that. NBC will never allow another show like this on there, called Hannibal. Have you heard of Hannibal, watched Hannibal? Hannibal is the story of Will Graham, who is a crime scene expert who gains, I guess, knowledge about crime scenes via being extremely empathetic, and so can really get into the mind of the murderer. Gets together with the lead FBI agent, who is I forgot. I had his name. He's Morpheus in The Matrix. Very famous actor.
Lawrence
Fishburne.
Yeah.
Yes, gets with him, and he realizes that maybe this Will character is too into what's happening in these different murders, and so hires a therapist to take care of him. The therapist is a therapist by the name of Hannibal Lecter, who is played by Mads Mikkelsen. Who goes on, I think the show lasts 3 seasons. It's one of the most fantastic shows on television. It's beautiful. It's artistic. Will, obviously, if you don't know, and I'm not going to spoil the show, Hannibal Lecter is a cannibal.
Yes.
Hannibal the cannibal. That is, when you think of cannibalism, you think of Hannibal Lecter.
Oh, yeah.
And
I think of Anthony Hopkins. Like that's
right. And this is a hot take, Mads Mikkelsen does a better job with Hannibal. Because he's not in jail.
Right.
He's still out in the world practicing and hiding stuff, and is kind of an anti-hero, he's
like,
a
am
friend
I really
of
rooting
people
for this cannibal right now? Like,
it's all relative to, it's supposed to be before the books, like what Anthony Hopkins portrays are from a series of books about Hannibal Lecter, who's a fictional character, obviously not a historical character, but it's supposed to be a prequel to those. And so he helps Will, but also Will is so empathetic towards murderers and can get in their heads. When his therapist is a murderer, it gets in his head. And there's some trickery and some different stuff happening with who's consuming what human flesh. There's a lot of different dream sequences where Will is obviously haunted by these killers and murders, and he's always portrayed as a stag in the dreams. Hannibal Lecter is always portrayed by an elongated black, like dark black skin character with white eyes and deer antlers.
So
he is the Wendigo, and believes, and this is relative knowledge, believes that he achieves higher power by consuming human flesh, that it is like the delicacy to have. So Hannibal Lecter is a Wendigo.
It all makes sense.
It all makes sense now. It seriously, if you want to see that visualization or just watch a really good show about crazy psychopathic killers, it's one of the best. I'm surprised NBC actually did it, because there's some gruesome stuff. I mean,
not good stuff.
There was one point in the show where they're investigating a killer that is trying to turn their victims into angels, in which he peels the back skin off of them to form angel wings.
Oh, that's pretty gross.
And they show all of it. and it's at primetime NBC.
Well,
Apparently, they're trying to do a season 4, but right now the show creator is working on American Gods, but they want to do a season 4 because they didn't finish the storyline.
Huh. So I did some thinking.
You did
about
some thinking.
Wendigos, and I was thinking, where have I seen this before?
Right.
I knew there was something from my life that I remember, a story or something I had heard or seen, and I was like, it looks familiar, it sounds familiar. And you know who this brought me back to?
Who did this bring you back to?
Dixie, my grandmother.
Oh, here we go. Okay.
So when I was a kid...
Put the counter up.
When I was a kid, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this on this show, but when I was a kid, Dixie, I'll refer to her as Nana. That's what I always call her, as Nana. All of us grandkids call her Nana.
Yeah.
So when I was a kid, when my cousins and I were all kids, because I'm the oldest of the cousins,
Right.
but we're all within just a couple years of each other. Nana used to tell us a lot of different stories before bed, or when we were little. A lot of them were like Brer Rabbit or these old classic, kids' tales that were nice. But sometimes Nana got she's feeling a little saucy with the stories. She wanted to switch it up a little bit.
Right.
And that was when we first heard the tales of Bloody Bones. Have you ever heard of Bloody Bones?
You had mentioned Bloody Bones in passing
Yes.
on this podcast.
So we're
before.
going to get into Bloody Bones.
I want to hear
because
about Bloody Bones.
The more I thought about it, I started looking into the old Bloody Bones stories. And I think it fits pretty well.
Okay.
So I'm going to tell you, it's a very short story. I want to tell you one of the stories that Nana used to tell me before bed.
I want to hear this.
I'm going to tell it just the way she would tell it.
If Reggie Fils-Aimé was here, he would say, "My body is ready."
So just put yourself in, let's say, like 6, maybe 7-year-old Austin's shoes here.
Okay.
So just imagine that you're at your grandmother's house. And my Nana lived in McDowell County, which is down near where Welch is. And Welch, as you know, in the game is it's down in the mountains. It's kind of away from everything.
Yeah. We like to call it McDowell County.
McDowell County, yeah. And it's down in the holler pretty much. The mountains close in pretty tight on where she lived, which was Yeager.
I think we actually have a listener in McDowell County. Really? I'm saying that right now.
Well, so she lived in Yeager, and Yeager was just this little town, not a whole lot of people, maybe 100, maybe 200 people at the time. Lived right by the creek, but the mountains were on each side of the house pretty much, that go up in the hills. So it was a little creepy spot at night if you're out there. So I'd be laying there, and I'd tell her to tell me a story, and this was the story. She said, once there's a little boy named Austin, and he came to his grandmother's house. So she's setting this up, and I'm shook, man.
You're already
7-year-old me's like,
right
that's
out
my
of the
name.
gate.
I'm at my grandmother's house.
Right out of the gate.
So I'm like, okay. So she says, well, Austin asked his grandmother one day if they could bake some cookies. And she said, we can, but I need you to go to the basement and get some of the ingredients for me. I need you to go get me some eggs from the basement. Well, Austin didn't want to go to the basement. He was scared to go to the basement because the basement was dark and scary. She said, well, Austin, if you don't go get those eggs, I'm going to make you go up and you got to go to bed right now. You can't stay up anymore today. You got to go on to bed. And so Austin was like, well, I don't want to go to bed. I want these cookies. So he walked down the stairs into the dark, cold basement. And he immediately came running back up. He said, Nana, I saw 2 glowing eyes in the corner of the basement staring at me. She said, that's dumb. Get back down there. There's nothing there. Go get the eggs or you're going upstairs. So he went back down the steps. He got a little bit further into the basement this time. But then he saw those glowing eyes in the corner again. And he heard this creaking noise. And he ran back up the steps. And he said, I can't get him. There's something down there. Well, his grandmother had gotten very frustrated at this point and sent him upstairs to go to bed. Well, he woke up in the middle of the night because he thought he heard a noise. And he's upstairs. And he thought he heard something. And then he started trying to go back to sleep. and he heard. I don't know if that'll register.
It'll register.
He heard, Austin, I'm on the first step. Austin, I'm on the 5th step. And so she would build this up, just, I'm on the 9th step. And she would just keep going, and she'd get slower and slower as she's just making the noise. And then it was, I'm laying in bed just terrified as she's telling the story.
Right.
It's, Austin, I got you. And she'd grab me and shake me real quick. And every time I would hear the story so many times. And then she started telling more. That was the first story of Bloody Bones I ever heard. She referred to it as the story of Bloody Bones, getting me. And she kept telling these other stories, though. And it became this thing of the character, and it was always me or my cousin's names as the characters.
Right.
And we would go up into the mountain in Jaeger, and we'd find a cave, and there were all these bones on the ground. And we got scared, and as we tried to leave, we saw this skeleton-looking creature dripping in blood, it had skin, but it was it was a skeleton basically, and it would eat kids, it would eat people, and it would chase us out of the cave back down the hill and tried to kill us. And looking back now, I realize why I have so many issues now, because my cousins and I have genuinely discussed this as to why we all have issues.
Yeah,
because old Dixie wanted to tell us these stories.
Story of Bloody Bones.
But I never thought about it, and then now that we started thinking about Wendigos, I was like,
wait a second.
This Bloody Bones sounds an awful lot like a Wendigo,
right?
And it's
so. How was it? My question: how was it going into the Wendigo cave? in Fallout 76.
Luckily, I didn't think about it, but now I need to go back, I think, and try it again because
that sounds like literally
exactly. Well, I did some research and I looked up Bloody Bones because I didn't know if it was something that she had just been. I didn't know how big of, and it's an old folklore story that I didn't realize. It's been passed down through different cultures and all this stuff. And there was a story I read about this woman said that her great-grandfather had been a coal miner back in the early 1900s in the American Southwest, and that they sent them up to blast this hole in the side of the mountain, and they were going to send someone down to see if they could see any coal or anything. And they blasted it, and they tied this guy up. And I'm assuming, early 1900s, there wasn't a lot of technology the way there is now. So it was very dangerous to do this. And apparently they lowered this little guy into the hole with a flashlight, and he was kind of looking on the side of the mountain there. And they kept going and going and going. He just kept going down, 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 down. And then all of a sudden they heard him scream, and the rope got real tight. And he was going, pull me up, pull me up. And they're trying to pull the rope, but they just can't. So they get everybody to start pulling that rope. And all of a sudden, they just all go flying back because just the slack just let right off on the rope. And they pull it up, and there's just blood covering the bottom of the rope. And they said that they shine the light down, and as they did, they could see this creature crawling up the walls of the hole, and it was just this skeleton-looking being with horns and red eyes and these sharp teeth coming up out of the side of the mountain. And that they all got in the truck and drove off. Now, obviously, I don't know how valid this story is, but it sounds like Bloody Bones.
Sounds like Bloody Bones
or a Wendigo, and it seems that these.
I think Bloody Bones and Wendigo might be very similar, if not the same thing.
I think it comes from the same type of just basis, like this being that is going to eat you or eat children, and it's this thing that will keep you up at night.
A Wendigo ate your baby.
Yeah, it really is creepy. And now the more I've thought about Bloody Bones, I'm like, wow.
You're like, wait a second, this is connected up.
Exactly. So
I dig it.
That's my big contribution to the old Wendigo thing.
The old Wendigo thing. Yeah. I've got a theory, and this is what I'll end this on. So in Fallout 76, we have the cult of the Mothman. Obviously, it's related to Mothman, and somehow we find it underneath the Mothman Museum. But all of the masks are a skeletal face with horns, with bonish, like the garb that comes with it is like bonish armor.
Yeah.
And then all of their statues are very reminiscent of the statues and idols in Pet Cemetery related to the Wendigo. Mm-hmm. So my theory is that the Mothman cultists are eating some people. I think that is a part of it, that they are trying to be Wendigos as well. That's my theory. Along with, of course, you've got the Gourmands, which is a part of connected to the story of Fallout, Fallout 76, where you have this raider group that are cannibals, and then their leaders go off because they've ate everybody, and they go to a cave and turn into a Wendigo because they have eaten everyone.
Yeah.
So
a lot of things flying around.
A lot of things flying around, but that's what I see. I've been trying to put my finger on what that imagery is because of the skull face, the horns, doesn't register. There's a lot of like horns and skulls around that cult that aren't related to Mothman. Really, there's some Mothman idols. Like you can tell if you go to some of the churches. Like there's like these Mothman constructions, but in a lot of these different areas, it's mostly horns and skulls, which are reminiscent of the Wendigos from Pet Cemetery. Mm-hmm. And then, thinking about Hannibal Lecter and thinking about all this stuff, the thing that I think would be interesting, I've always thought that in Fallout, you can't have different races like you would in Skyrim. But because everybody has to start as a fresh dweller and coming from Vault 76. Right. I've always thought it'd be interesting if you could, by means of radiation or some sort of accident, become a ghoul that your player could be, or you undergo the super mutant stuff. And so you would have positives, for ghouls, you would be, radiation wouldn't harm you at all. It would heal you, but you would be extra prone to damage or something, and something for super mutants. But I think Wendigos would be an interesting one of having the cannibal perk and eating so many dead bodies that you would then become a Wendigo, where you would have, for example, higher agility but lower strength, something like that.
I like it.
That's my proof of here's how we get races into that. But then if you do that, only your new players are going to be Vault Dwellers. Everybody else is going to be ghouls and super mutants and Wendigos, which, hey man,
fun though.
I'm cool with.
Grow into something.
How do you become Mothman? You just go to the lamps? All right, Austin. So this week we've got some mail here that I wanted to talk to you about. But before we get to that, I've got a Cryptid Club update. So last week, I introduced the Cryptid Club, which includes cryptids internationally. Mm-hmm. And I had a kind listener, Michael Yost, send me an article of 5 cryptids from Illinois, which is where he's at. I think it's Illinois. Yeah, it's Illinois. And I wanted to talk about one of them. Okay. In the 1940s, a leaping simian-esque oddity was spotted in the small town of Mount Vernon. In the 1970s, a similar beast, now with 3 legs and eyes as bright as flashlights, was seen several times in nearby Enfield, Illinois, by a young boy and his neighbor on the same night. Then later, by a local radio news anchor. Some say it was an escape chemistry experiment. Some say it was alien. Lauren Coleman, founder of the International Cryptozoology Museum in Maine, which I want to go to, and a Central Illinois native, investigated at the time and said it made quite a stir, and not so much now. Some saw a deformed kangaroo and thought it was Lauren thought it was a variation of an ape. So it's not to be confused, this Enfield monster is not to be confused with the Enfield poltergeist, which is from the same town.
They got a lot of stuff going on.
Which the Enfield poltergeist is what the 2016 film Conjuring 2 is based on.
Yeah, they definitely have a lot of stuff.
They got some stuff going on in Enfield. So Henry McDaniel was the first person to encounter it in 1973. And his quote of what it looked like was, "It had 3 legs on it, a short body, 2 little short arms, and 2 pink eyes as bright as flashlights. It stood at 4.5 feet tall and was grayish colored." He said, "If they do find it, they will find more than one, and they won't be from this planet, I can tell you that." Quote.
That's a hot take.
It's a hot take. He knows.
He's straight up calling it right off the bat. Not from this planet.
Yep. He's got it. So
that's pretty cool, though.
these investigators came out, and they were interviewing nearby residents, and they were told that Greg Garrett, a 10-year-old neighbor of McDaniel, who's the neighborhood boy, claimed to have encountered the creature half an hour before McDaniel did, said that the creature had stepped on his feet, tearing his tennis shoes to shreds.
Well, but it didn't hurt him.
But it didn't hurt him.
So it's just confused.
Or, and I'm going out on a limb here and saying maybe Greg Garrett tore up his shoes and maybe didn't want his mom to get bad and said, "Hey."
Yeah, if I did that, my mom would bust my what. So maybe I'm with him, man.
This is the infield monster. It got him. It got him right then and there.
He saw an opportunity. I saw it too. That's what happened to my shoes.
Right. So that's me, the skeptic within me. It'd be like, little Greggy Daniels,
Yeah. Well,
he's fooling around. So, on the note of skepticism in this topic, it was suggested that the creature may have been a kangaroo, which I had mentioned, escaped from a nearby zoo, which would explain the 3 legs description, as the tail of the kangaroo is kind of like a 3rd leg. McDaniel was adamant that the creature, wasn't no kangaroo. That's a quote.
Wasn't no kangaroo.
Having owned such a creature as a pet while in military service in Australia. This guy's like, I owned it. And noting that kangaroos have narrow faces and tracks that leave claw marks.
They tried to tell this guy it was a kangaroo.
And he's like,
little did they know it was the one guy in the state that
I
actually
owned
had
a kangaroo.
owned a kangaroo.
Yeah. So following media coverage of the creature, an Ohio man contacted a local newspaper stating that the creature may have been his pet kangaroo, Macy, which had been lost or stolen a year previously.
How's everybody having pet kangaroos, man?
I don't know. All I remember is my dad used to tell, my dad's best friend used to tell a story about this guy in Bluefield who, back in the 1960s, had a pet pet alligator in his bathtub in Bluefield. When I think of crazy pets or stuff, I think about the alligator in the bathtub.
Now it's in the sewer below Bluefield. And
his name is Dr. Connors. That's a deep cut right there. Deep cut. So I'm going to thank Michael for sharing that. If you have any cryptid stories, you can send them in. I'll probably do a little bit of research in the background because we wouldn't have been able to have a conversation about kangaroos, which is always fun.
Kangaroo song.
Right. So right in the show, you can do that through our Discord server, which is in the links as well as email. We want to hear more stories about the cryptids that you have in your community or around the world, or things that you're just interested in. Maybe it's something in West Virginia. Maybe it's something in Illinois, like Michael here. Maybe it's something in Hawaii. I want to know a Hawaiian cryptid.
Yeah.
I want to challenge people to really get out there and figure out some stuff, bring it to the Cryptid Club. But I appreciate Michael for his contribution.
Yes, Michael.
To the club.
Thank you for your service.
In mail, though, I've got a letter here. Not related to the Cryptid Club. This is from John. I just wanted to write it to tell you all what a great job you're doing. Blending Fallout WV with the real-life WV was a very creative move. Dave and Austin bring humanity to the show in a way few other podcasts have done. I've listened and re-listened to almost all of your casts. Keep up the good work. John from Nova.
John from Nova.
He says, P.S. You need to get Dixie on soon. P.S.S. You should sponsor a Vault Boys event at the next Mothman Festival, New River Bridge Day, etc., etc.
Fun fact, we actually wrote that email. We were just trying to...
We wrote that email. I'm John.
I'm John from Nova. It's whatever.
No, but...
thank you, John. Thank you for sending
Nova's a good little area. I've spent a lot of time up there over the years. I have a lot of friends that have lived up there.
I feel like a lot of people from Bluefield, Virginia at some point lived in Nova.
Yeah. And my friends in college were all from there, so I've run up near Manassas and Woodbridge, and they all call it Hoodbridge up there, which I thought was funny.
It's a nice little spot. I say
It is.
little
It's
as
crowded.
The DC
Yeah,
area
it's
is,
little.
like,
Yeah.
one of the biggest areas.
What
like,
first
on
time
the East Coast.
I went up there, I was like, oh, I'll go up to Stanton, Virginia, and then cut over and hit up Richmond, and then go north from there. And I hit that right at 5:00. And it was right outside Quantico, which is a military base out there. And it was the most traffic I've ever seen in my life. And I thought, is this how the world works?
You were
It was
on,
my
what,
little
95?
country mouse in my Honda Accord. And I was like,
Is it 95?
I-95, yeah.
Oh,
Let's go up
God.
to there. And it was terrible. And
Yep. I one time
I
got
spent
stuck.
about 2 hours.
I got stuck trying to get out of DC to get back over to Centerville one night, and we left at like 5:30. It was like a 30-minute drive in. To get back to Centerville was literally over 2 hours.
Yeah, it's
A lot of traffic.
it is impossible.
The metro is the way to go.
Yes.
And it still sucks, but it's the way
Metro
to
is fine. Metro's good. I like the Metro fine.
go. I've seen
takes
some stuff on the metro.
I have seen some stuff in the Metro as well. I swear that I have seen an Obama impersonator on there. Like
Maybe it was just Barack himself.
I wasn't, but in my head, I'm like, that guy looks exactly like Barack
That's
Obama.
what they did.
And so he was either...
They made him like just look. They made Obama just look mostly like himself, so people
Right.
would be like, "That Obama? Nah, that's not Obama, but it looks like Obama."
It
It's
was either
reverse
one of
psychology.
those, and this was when Obama was president. It was either like a person that would work in Times Square that would dress up as a character. It looks so real, or it was like maybe he works as the body double. You know, that's my brain working there.
Exactly.
As my conspiracy theories and my cryptids talk goes. But thank you, John. I want to do a Vault Boys event. I want to do something. You know,
Meet up,
I do something sometime. Sometime we should. Sometime when we have time, which is practically never. But I think maybe I don't know, Mothman Festival maybe.
I think that makes the most sense.
I think that makes the most sense.
It'd be hard to do it at Bridge Day.
Bridge Day, there's so
going
much going on. Mothman Festival would be more akin, and we already know that we get a lot of Fallout fans coming to Mothman Festival,
Yeah.
clearly, because 50% of the people that came to Mothman Festival last year were Fallout fans. So maybe something for that this year. I don't know. I will bring the umbrellas and the air conditioner units so that we won't die because it was hot tamale while we were out there. I also had some iTunes reviews I wanted to shout out. Haven't done those in a while, but we got 3 in since the beginning of the year, and I want to encourage you all, please go on iTunes and rate our podcast 5 stars and leave a review with some kind words or what have you. That really helps out the show. I know a lot of people say that, but it really does. That's how the show, that's our primary way of getting on charts or letting people see our podcast by the weird little algorithms. We don't do YouTube. We don't have that like AdSense or what have you, or trending words. It's just by your rates and reviews. And that's how we grow the podcast. So I've got some reviews here to read out. First one. Dave and Austin, you do a fantastic job of interweaving West Virginia geography and history with Fallout 76 lore. Love listening to you guys on my commute. Still looking for the Squat and Gobble in Charleston, though. And that's from Long Life Tiki. So thank you, Long Life Tiki. I've got another one here. Best podcast around. Keep up the great work. That's from Jake, 270,000. Appreciate that, Jake. And been with the podcast since release. This podcast brings Fallout to the real world. Can't tell you how much West Virginia knowledge I have learned from this. From Mothman to Fosnot to how to take a good photo. Keep up the great work, guys. Love the ratio of Fallout to interesting snippets. That's from Jolly40. Thank you so much, guys, for the reviews and for the shout-outs and for having a nice little write-up on there. It's truly means a lot. That's how we get. That's what we do this for, is the iTunes reviews. I'm just kidding. We do this for fun. We do this because we like each other. I'm sitting over here looking at this guy that I'm magically related to now. When we haven't really talked about that, you know. Now that we're related, what does that mean?
I guess we're just related. I don't know.
But I mean, what does that mean for? Do we start a house?
To be fair, it's like the most distant relation.
No. Do we start like a house, like Game of Thrones? Are we like the House Taylor? And then, like, do we have magical powers that we utilize, or some sort of?
Sigil is the sheep squatch,
Our sigil is the sheep squatch. Yes,
or the
and we do.
Mothman.
Or
The sheep squatch sigil. That's really hard to say. Mothman sigil is way easier
Mothman
to
sigil,
say.
yes. And we bring a unique flavor of wisdom, and we have sages in the family, right? I'm making all this stuff up on the fly.
I don't know where you're going with this right now.
Well, we have not addressed it very much, so we continue to see how that plays out. See how this one plays out, Cotton. You know how it goes. Well, with that, I will leave you all with warm tidings for your week.
Season's greetings.
Season's greetings. If the weather's hot, cool, whatever, get out and enjoy. Have some fun playing Fallout 76. And from holler to highway, we've got you covered 6 ways to Sunday.